you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from theCrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there shrill lady sings that makes it official. Welcome to 16 years of the Chris Voss Show. Going on 16 years, 2,500 episodes. And clearly I've started Alzheimer's descent. That or I'm having a stroke, one of the two. But that's pretty much every show, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. As always, we have the most brilliant guests. And make sure and refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives, or I'll pull the car over and come back there. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss, facebook.com/Chris Voss. Let's see, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss on the TikTok, and wherever the Chris Voss Show is across the interwebs in the sky.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
Today, amazing young man. Today, we're going to be talking about his book, his amazing podcast, and a whole mess of other great stuff he's working on, and to help make the world smarter, better, and richer. And if you don't like being smarter and better, richer, well then, damn it, go listen to that guy's podcast on Spotify who has all the nuts on. Anyway, guys, I'm just teasing. Rod Khleif joins us. He is a multi-business owner and philanthropist who is passionate about business, high performance, real estate, and giving back. One of the country's top real estate and peak performance luminaries. He has owned over 2,000 properties. He soared from humble beginnings as a young, impoverished Dutch immigrant to incredible success. His experience involves both remarkable triumphs and spectacular failures, which he effectively calls seminars. Interesting. Rod will explain to us the mindset required to recover from losing $50 million in the crash of 2008, the success he enjoys today. Rod brings incredible authenticity and insight to his approach to real estate, mindset, success in life, and all that great stuff. He also founded the Tiny Hands Foundation. There's a joke there, but I'm not going to tell it, which has benefit more than 130,000 children in need. It probably doesn't have to do with politics, but welcome to the show, Rod. How are you?
It does not have to do with politics. That bio is dated. My God, it was painful to listen to that. But
wow.
I appreciate you having me on, brother. And we feed families for the holidays and,
awesome.
And we give backpacks with school supplies to local kids. And it's a lot of fun. But now let's have some fun, brother.
Let's do it. And just update your executive assistant on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's 150,000, but who's counting?
Yeah, well, you're growing so fast, evidently.
Right.
This was sent to us on September 16th. This bio, so you've gone 20,000 up in the meantime.
It's amazing how fast things grow. But it's fun to be here, brother. And I love your intro video. Keep your hands and arms in the vehicle. I love that.
We are force majeure. And you also wrote the book I want to plug, How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties, 90-day action plan included. We'll get into some of the details.
Yeah, thank you.
Give us a 30,000 overview of who you are and what you do in your words.
Yeah. So, that book is something I wrote out of necessity because I never planned to teach it. I started my podcast, about 9 years ago. I'm blessed to say it's the largest commercial real estate podcast in the world by far. And, I used to tell people early on, episodes that I'll never sell you anything. I just want to add value. Now I'm a liar because I sell everything. I have courses, coaching, boot camps and everything, but I never intended to. You want to make God laugh. You tell him your plans. But anyway, so I'm a Dutch immigrant, like you said on my bio. I immigrated from the Netherlands, wooden shoes and windmills when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. We ended up in Denver, Colorado. Didn't have much, wore clothes from the Goodwill, ate, drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. And, really struggled initially. Luckily, though, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she invested in the stock market successfully. but she also invested in real estate. Her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from us. She bought when I was about 14 for 30 grand. Then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that had gone up in value 20,000. I'm like, what? This was when 20,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I said, you made 20 grand. You didn't do anything. Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went and got my real estate broker's license, which you could do back then with education. Now they got smart. To be a broker, you have to have some experience, but I was a real estate broker and I was going to be rich in real estate. Well, I was still living at home. My first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some pretty decent change. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I went and worked for this broker, and I was dating his daughter, which was helpful as well. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology. And I really, 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical stuff we talk about on our podcast. Mine, I talk about real estate, commercial real estate. But and fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long term. I own thousands of apartment units now. I'm actually getting into senior housing, assisted living facilities. I closed on my first one 6 weeks ago. But, in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And
wow.
I was just going to say, you might say, wow. I said, wow. And I got a head so big I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God of the universe, give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008 and 9. Like you mentioned, I lost $50 million in that crash conservatively. And so what I'm known for talking about on my show and at my boot camps and whatnot is really the mindset it took to have $50 million to lose in the first place. But maybe more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from losing that. And so, would love to drill down on some of those strategies with you and see if we can add some value to your peeps today.
Definitely. Let's get into it. And now, are some of these, I wanted to promote this off the get-go, this live multifamily boot camp. Are a lot of these strategies in that boot camp?
Well, sure. I mean, I spend a lot of time on mindset-related strategies. So I've got an event coming up in LA in January, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And it's 3 days of training. It's not a big sales pitch. I mean, it's soup to nuts how to buy apartment complexes. And just to brag for a minute, my students, they're called my warriors, my coaching students, they own somewhere between 185 and 200,000 units under my tutelage, something I'm very proud of, and as well as every other type of commercial real estate, senior housing, self-storage, student housing, mobile home parks, industrial flex space, you name it. And so, if someone's interested in real estate, get your ass to that boot camp. It's January 23rd, 24th, 25th. The price is ridiculously reasonable. It's less than the price of a nice meal. It's not a big sales pitch, but anyway, so yeah, that's, and I spend time on mindset. That's the reason my students are so successful. And, if you do end up coming to the event, you'll leave so freaking motivated, you'll be coming out of your skin because I spend time on that. And like I said, the reason that my podcast has been so successful is people don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And, and people like to think about mindset related strategies and that's the stuff that, that's how I recovered from losing $50 million and how I had it to lose in the first place. And, was focusing on some simple strategies, and maybe not so simple, but some of them certainly are, like figuring out exactly what it is you want. It starts with goals, Chris. You've got to create that burning desire or that hunger to push through fear to actually take action with what you want. So if you come to my boot camp, the first hour and a half is goal setting on steroids, because again, how do you get anything if you don't know what the heck it is? And so it starts with that. And you got to want it. And because everybody gets locked up in fear or, what we achievers call stress. And to push through it, you've got to figure out what it is you want. So that starts there. And if you're not interested in real estate and you're listening, I do a goal setting workshop. Here's the sad reality. People spend more time planning a freaking Christmas party than they do designing their lives. That's designing your life, doing your goals. And so if you go to my link tree, it's rodslinks.com, like rods plural, links plural.com. There's at the bottom of that's my goal setting workshop. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Watch it. Have your kids watch it. Have your spouse watch it. There's a guide you can download to fill out and design your life. And So that's on my link tree. And my bootcamp site is also there as well as a bunch of free resources. This book, actually, my number one best-selling book, is there, and you pay the shipping. It's like $6 or something, and you get that shipped to you. And by the way, people say, "Oh yeah, well you're making money selling it for $6." No, it cost me about $30 to ship it to you. FYI, for those of you that are going to hate on me for that. But anyway, rodslinks.com is a bunch of free resources if you're interested in real estate. But again, it starts with goals, and that's the first thing we do at my boot camps is we do goal setting. And that's the first thing if you're listening and you haven't taken action on your dreams, you deserve more. You want time freedom, money freedom, all these freedoms that you don't have. It starts with figuring out exactly what it is you want. You got to pick your vehicle. And I think there's incredible opportunity coming with what's happening economically in this country. I know in my space there's a lot of deals that are in trouble because of the interest rates. So if there was ever a time to get into this business, it's right now. But once you know what you want, you got to make a decision, Chris, and you know this. And that's what I did. When I lost everything, I reassociated with my goals. And then I decided, okay, enough is enough. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. And what I mean by a decision is I don't mean you dip your toe in the water. I mean, you're committed, you're fully committed, and there's no like escape path for your decision. You're like a train on a track. If you're not committed, you're going to get knocked off track. And, motivation will get you started, but that commitment's what's going to bring you home. And so, you make a decision, and the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. So a great analogy for that would be if you're going to attack the island in battle, you burn your ships because you're taking their damn ships home. You're committed. It's freaking done, right?
I love that idea.
Yeah. So once you made that decision, then you got to take the first step. And, Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But, sometimes the most important decision in your life is to take that step, and I would tell you, a lot of people fear failure. Don't fear failure. Fear regret. Fear being in the same place you are right now 1 or 2 years from now, unless you freaking love where you are right now. There was this nurse in Australia, Chris, named Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. So she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked him a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book. It's like a bestseller, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. And you know what the number one regret was? Well, it was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Fear that. Don't fear failure. You fail your way to, I call my failures seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. Okay. It was a big one. Okay. Don't get me wrong. It hurt, but it's only a failure if you don't get your ass back up or you don't get the lesson, and everybody's had numerous seminars, and, you got to make that decision and take that first step. And, remember this, if you're analytical, for example, and you're some of the most successful people in my business, because, the business that I'm in, commercial real estate, is primarily numbers. It's empirical. And so, if you're analytical, you know how you have to check off every box before you make a move? Well, listen, you can't do that. You can't see the whole path. You've just got to take that first step and recognize that this life's not a dress rehearsal, because you don't want those regrets. And just remember this analogy. You can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing like 50 feet in front of you. And you can make it. Other people have made it before you. You may have some obstacles. It's the same way with my business or any business you get into, but you got to take that first step. And I'll tell you a funny story, Chris. When I immigrated, and this speaks to fear and limiting beliefs. When I immigrated, I didn't speak English, and I got thrown into school, and I found out what bullies were for the first time. So I got my ass kicked occasionally. And then my mom, in fact, I think I've got them right here. Then my mom thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in these wooden shoes. And
really?
And and then these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. Oh yeah, crack cocaine for the bullies.
Beer there.
Oh yeah, so I got my ass kicked again, and then the bullies would chase me home, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. So next day, ass beaten, and I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? Which of course presupposed that I didn't believe I was. And a lot of people have these limiting beliefs. I'm not smart enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. And just if you have one of these that you're consciously aware of, these limiting beliefs, remember that there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS, but we believe they're real. And so they impact our entire life. And so if you've got one of these, drag it out into the daylight, look at it with your adult rational mind and recognize that it's BS. You know, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of 10 kids in a classroom, and now I speak in front of thousands a year in flip-flops. You know, I'm becoming more and more free from the opinion of others. And it's because I looked at it and recognized that, you know, anybody that, you know, didn't care about me just didn't know me. And so, you know, if you've got one of these, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
A couple of other things that I'll mention real quick. One of them is focus. You know, the most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. You know, you look at Bezos, you look at Musk, you look at people like that. See, where focus goes, energy flows, and incredible focus equals incredible success. Here's the problem, though. Whatever you focus on gets bigger, both positive or negative. You know, I'll get people call me and say, you know, how do I get out of student loan debt? I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money? The debt's irrelevant. It's the right question. You know, they asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. You know, I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's focus. And, you know, I listen to two podcasts. My podcast is about 30 million downloads, which for a podcast doesn't sound like much, but it's not bad. But you know, I listen to two podcasts. I listen to Joe Rogan, who I think you were just joking about a minute ago. And I listen to Tim Ferriss, and I try to get both sides of the aisle. I'm definitely on one side. We won't talk politics here, but, you know, on Tim Ferriss's show, fascinating conversation. And there's a message in all this. That's why I'm bringing this up. He interviews the best of the best in the world, the best athletes like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, NFL, NBA players, you know, billionaires like Ray Dalio, heads of the biggest companies on the planet like Zuckerberg, CEOs, actors like Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold. And what he does is he deconstructs their success. So and he just looks at how they became successful. And I started to hear a pattern, Chris. They almost all meditate. And I'm thinking, what does meditation enhance? Focus, right? You know, so many of us will be sitting there watching Netflix, scrolling through freaking social media, which kills your focus because your brain's making these micro decisions every few seconds. And so pay attention to your focus, my friends, and then play to your strengths. Mm-hmm. You know, in my business, you know, buying large apartment complexes or even smaller ones, you're not going to do it by yourself. You're going to do it with other people. I mean, I bought 2,000 houses pretty much by myself, but I wouldn't even think about taking down, 50 units, 100 units of an apartment complex by myself. You do it in a team. But so there are lots of different hats you can wear. You can be the analytical person that does the analysis. Mm-hmm. You can be the person that finds the deals. You know, you can be the one that analyzes them. Like I said, you could be the one that manages them after the fact. Maybe you've got some project management or construction experience. But here's the key: play to your strengths. Whatever you do in life, play to your freaking strengths. Mm-hmm. Your strengths are your greatest assets. You know, don't try to maximize your weaknesses because, I would tell you hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. And because first of all, when you're playing to your strengths, you love what you do, right? And when you love what you do, work is play. And in my business, apartment complex buying or any commercial real estate buying, the best combination I ever see is an analytical person with an outgoing person, because someone's got to analyze the deals and the outgoing person's got to build relationships with brokers and sellers and maybe potential investors. And so, that's a match made in heaven. And so, play to your strengths, because when you do, you're going to love what you do, obviously. And when you love what you do, you're passionate about it. And people want to be around people that are passionate, right? Yeah. I mean, that's why people love your show and mine is we're passionate about what we do. Oh. And so to influence requires passion. And so when you're playing to your strengths, you have the ability to influence. And so, I've been rambling a long time here. I don't know if you have any questions. But
No, you covered all my questions. I don't have any.
Yeah. All right. Well, one other thing is, pay attention to who you hang out with. The reason that my students are so successful in my coaching program is they build each other up. They hold each other accountable. In our Facebook group, there's like a deal closing almost every day, and they get praise, they get validation. So many people, you show me your three best friends, I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your health, your happiness, definitely your finances, because who you hang out with is who you become, both professionally and personally. But, you want to be around people that lift you up, but don't, not that hold you back out of fear. And sometimes it's family. the naysayers. And I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose who you allow to influence you, right? And, you want people that push you and hold you accountable. People that think what you think is hard is easy. And so, it's the old adage, if you play tennis, do you want to play somebody better than you or worse than you? It's the same thing with anything you do in business.
So let me ask you this: who, if I'm out there listening to this on LinkedIn or all the different places we post stuff, who is your client? Who do you usually appeal to? Or target?
People that want to buy. Yeah, people that want to buy real estate. People that want to invest in real estate either actively or even passively. I get people that come to my boot camp that just want to learn who to invest with, and so you don't want to give your hard-earned money to someone unless you know what the heck you're investing in. Don't do that. Please don't do that, And then, of course, my students, they own, like I said, almost, I think, close to 300,000 units in the 8 years I've been teaching, which is just extraordinary. And so, I'm appealing to people like that want to do, and they do it on the side with a full-time job, with kids, with school, with church. You can do this on the side. You just got to decide. Like I said, make that decision, take that first step. If you have any interest in real estate, get your butt to LA in January. It'll be 1,000 people there, incredible networking. It's a kick in the ass because I spend a lot of time. We have a lot of fun on mindset. You'll leave so juiced and motivated. You'll be coming out of your skin. But again, even if you're not interested in real estate, go do the goal setting workshop at my Linktree, because that'll help you in whatever endeavor you want to get into. You got to know what it is you want. You got to create that desire so that you push through that fear, you push through those limiting beliefs to take action. Let me share one other thing with you that's super important. It might sound a little foofy, but it's not. First thing, let's talk about gratitude. Gratitude is the most important foundational emotion we have available to us. It makes us stronger when we face adversity. It strengthens our immune system, makes our heart stronger, lowers our blood pressure, brings us closer to our spirituality. And it's how you attract everything you want into your life. It's how I've gotten all the stupid shit I thought was important, like the cars, the Lamborghini, the Rolls, the Bentley, all this stupid stuff at one time I thought was important. That's how you get it. It's how I got my wife. It is through gratitude and manifesting. And so, one of the things I do when in most mornings, I'll sit in my recliner and I'll just be grateful for the people in my life, the blessings that I have, but then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them, and sometimes I've gotten emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know you're like, oh, geez, get on. But I'm going to tell you,
fires you up. Passion carries you through.
This is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got it back. Okay. So ignore this at your peril because it works. Yeah. And one last story I'll share with you, Chris. When I immigrated, we ended up in Denver because my mom met a man and he was my stepfather. He was a beautiful man. But, I knew I wanted to live on the beach, man. And there's no beach in Denver. And so, I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand. And 20 years later, I built this incredible mansion on the beach here in Sarasota. I owned the beach on one side and I had my boats on the backside. It was a slice through an island. It was about an $8 to $10 million place. And just to describe it, there was a big waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get the pool. The pool was in magazines. Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house. I had elevator, wine cellar. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. Anyway, I worked for this thing for 20 freaking years, okay? 2 months after I moved in. So 20 years, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool, looking up at this testament to my ego. It was to prove to the freaking world I was good enough. I mean, if that didn't do it, forget it, and I got depressed, brother. I don't mean a little depressed. I mean, I got really depressed. And I'm like, What the hell is going on? I've just achieved success. I had the cars and the beautiful wife and the kids, and I just achieved success like times 10,000. So there's a message in this. I discovered a couple things when I look back on it. One was you never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, you need a vision for the future. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that's number one. Second thing is it's never about the goals. You need them to create that burning desire and that hunger. But they say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell it, right? I mean, you need it to create that hunger. But happiness comes from progress and growth, okay? Mm-hmm. And so, if you do my goal setting workshop or come to my boot camp, I do a weekly planning process. And I teach you how to plan properly. It's how I run 2 big companies at the same time. But one of the pieces of that process is just to acknowledge anything you got done the previous week. Celebrate anything you got done, because you're going to have setbacks. You're going to hit walls. You're going to get delayed. But if you're progressing even a little and you acknowledge it consciously, you'll be happy. So that was the second thing, is I didn't know what I was going to do next. But the third big thing was, Chris, I'd been totally focused on myself, rod, show the world I'm good enough, blah, blah, blah. And that's the year I met Tony Robbins, actually. This was 25 years ago. I ended up spending about 22 years with him, but that's the year I met him. And I saw that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get the memo of doing things for other people. And so I called my brother in Denver. I'm like, bro, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving, because I was going to go visit him because I live in Florida and I lived there then. But I go to Denver, and he called his church and found 5 families that really needed help. And the third family changed my life, brother. We go up to this shack, it was a shack. It wasn't even a 1-bedroom. It was a crappy 1-bedroom. And there was this Hispanic woman in there with 5 kids. And we bought toys for the kids and frozen turkey and food and all this stuff. And she sees this stuff on the porch and she starts crying.
Wow.
And then their kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying, and I start crying, and I was freaking hooked. And please know, this is not ego. There's a huge message in this. If you're an entrepreneur or want to be entrepreneur, listen, so don't lose me here. So over the last 25 years, I've fed about 150,000 children in my area for the holidays, at-risk kids. I've provided tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local kids, that don't have the basic supplies for school. Don't get me started on that. Greatest country on earth, and they don't have school supplies. And then I've done thousands and thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to keep in a vehicle, in their patrol vehicle, if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. And the reason I bring this up is we've been taught to achieve to be happy. And this is going to be a play on words. It's a little corny play on words, but it's an important one. If you're giving back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. Okay. And, Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. If you want to learn how to do real estate, get your ass to my boot camp. I'll give you the blueprint. You just got to do it. Okay. That's it. Bottom line. But fulfillment is an art. You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. It's also the elderly. That's why I'm getting into senior housing. But that's what I love. That's what juices me. Maybe for you, it's animals. Maybe it's the environment. Whatever it is, give back now. And don't say, well, you had money, that's why you gave back. You want the money? Give back now. That's how you get the money. Okay. That's how God works. That's how the universe works. Whatever you give, you get back 10-fold, 100-fold, sometimes 1,000-fold. But you got to give now, and then you'll be fulfilled and you'll be happily achieving.
And so people can check out that workshop. They can sign up for it, and then and then tell us as we go out. Tell us about this book. Evidently, people can get a great deal on this book.
Yeah, well, the book is basically free. If you want the physical copy, I'll send you a PDF for free. But if you want the physical copy, it's $6 or $7, something like that, for me to ship it to you. And again, it costs me about $30. But it's a #1 bestseller in 3 categories. I have never had. I mean, I get hate all the time. No one should have owned 800 houses. I talk about the 800 houses. Yeah. No one should own 800. So I get hate all the time. But no one's ever said anything critical about this book. And I've given away tens of thousands of copies of it. But it's at rodslinks.com. Rods plural, links plural.com. My bootcamp site is there. This book, there's a bunch of free books there too. And they're not crap. They're like best in class books abound around real estate. My social media is there. And of course, that goal setting workshop is there as well. But I hope you'll check it out. My podcast link is there as well. And it's called, my podcast is called Lifetime Cashflow Through Real Estate Investing. And I love it. And I think it comes out because, we're blessed to be the largest. But
good for you, man. Way to build it up like that. The great thing about the real estate stuff that you're talking about is, becoming an entrepreneur and mastering a business and being a CEO, like you've built a lot of businesses, you have to, there's a lot of risks. There's a lot of things that you have to go into. There's a lot of market shit. Everything can happen. I went through the same crisis in 2008. One of our biggest
did? Oh, wow.
One of our biggest jewels of our companies was a mortgage company.
Oh my God. That's
20-year-old mortgage company that I never thought would just hit the wall.
I used to have a huge mortgage company. I had 80 LOs, 80. Yeah, I had a huge mortgage company. I got cream there too. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we
Wow,
tanked
wow.
everything in 2008 and had to start over. So I know the field.
That's it.
I know the
Yeah, that's
field.
it. But it's
But,
okay. If
yeah,
you don't give up, right? If you don't give
yeah,
up, that's it. You fail your way to success. I've built 29 businesses, several worth tens of millions of dollars. Most are spectacular flaming seminars, but we fail our way to success. Don't fear that. Fear regret, like I said.
Yeah, fear, regret. So people can order the book. They can go to your website. Give us, as we go out, a final pitch out to people and all the .com.
Well, listen. If you have thank you. If you have an interest in real estate, then go to rodslinks.com or go to rodinla.com. That's my boot camp there. Again, the tickets I think are $197 for 3 days. And it's not a big sales pitch. It's just full on training. And you'll like I said, I don't think I've ever had a complaint other than the room's too cold or the food sucked or something like that. So again, rodinla.com or Rod's Links for a lot of resources. And, I hope you'll check it out. I hope you'll do the goal setting, even if you're not interested in real estate. Do that. Give yourself that gift. Give your spouse that gift. Give your kid, if they're over 10 years old, that gift. Because, design your life. But I appreciate it, brother. Appreciate you letting me plug that stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Design your life. That's really important to do, because if you, what's the old adage? If you fail to plan, fail.
And if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes.
I didn't really need that in my head, but I have huskies and they have their tails sticking up all the time. So anytime they're the lead dog, you have to be looking at a bunch of buttholes, and you're like, "Can you put your tails down?" Like, seriously. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you.
Thank you. And thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTok and all those crazy places on the interwebs. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out. Great.